Hi, this is Jim Schaffner, and I'm here at America's Best Boot Fitting Boot Test at Mount Bachelor, Oregon. And many of you might be wondering, well, how do you test boots? You know, you just throw them on and see if they're comfortable, and if you like them, they get good recommendations. If you don't like them, they get bad recommendations. Well, actually, that's not how it works at all. First of all, one of the things we do is we divide the boots up by the width that the boot is built in, and we test within categories. And so there's basically three main categories of boots. There are narrow boots, there are medium boots, and there are wide boots. The narrow boots are 98 millimeters in the forefoot. The medium boots are 100 millimeters in the forefoot, and the wide boots are 102 and greater in the forefoot. So what's important here, though, to understand what our boot testers do is you can't just stick within one range. Let's say my foot happens to be medium in its width and only test medium boots. But what you have to be able to do is put your own sizing of your foot into use as the jig or the plug that goes in any boot to determine whether the boot's really small, really wide, really narrow, whatever the case may be. So one of the interesting things is none of our feet are the same. So in this particular case, this is a drawing of my foot, and you can see it's pretty darn wide from the widest spot, from the first met to the fifth metatarsal head. I've got a pretty wide foot, so in most cases I'm stuffing a pretty wide foot into relatively narrow boots when I get into the 100 millimeter and the 98 millimeter boots. But all I can do is just realize how much fit tension there is and try and describe those boots based on that. Now, in addition to going about it this way, understanding that my foot's the jig that's going to determine, we do two types of testing. We do what's called a dry fit, so we do an initial try-on, which would be the same thing that you'd experience if you went into a ski shop and started trying on boots. And you yourself could determine, hey, this one's loose, this one's tight, this one's loose in the forefoot, tight in the rear foot. And so we try and do that work for you so you can go through our reviews and realize what type of foot you have and what type of boot is going to be best suited to go with it. So there's the dry foot aspect to it, and then after we've done the dry fit and analyzed just how the boot feels, then we actually go out and ski it. And this is kind of key because the fit of the boot can determine how the boot skis. So a boot that's very filled up and very tight on your foot can actually have great control, and a boot where you're moving around quite a bit, the control is not so good. So there's two aspects to the test. There's the dry fit, and then there's the actual on snow of where we assess the behavior of the boot and the setup of the angles of footbed angle, boot board angle, forward lean, and cuff cant are all things that become important to how the boot skis on snow. So a lot of the way you can watch these reviews is listen to how they're being described in terms of what category they fall into and whether they fit tight or loosely within that category, and then also listen to what they're saying about the balance and the stance angles of the boots in terms of how they perform on snow. So those are key things to watching these videos and learning from our experience testing in the spring so you can have a good experience in purchasing and skiing on your boots next season.